Hello and welcome to Akashic Conversations. In tonight's conversation, we're going to be talking about Valentina's trip to Colombia, where she spent time with some of the indigenous tribes there on the Sierra Nevada mountains. So I'm so excited for this Akashic conversation, Valentina. Welcome.
Hi, it's nice to see you again. Lovely to see everyone out there too. Thank you for joining us. Yeah, this was an amazing trip. So yeah, very happy to be sharing a few things about it. Finally, it's taking a few months to kind of allow it to just settle and harmonize into my life. It was in December last year. Mm.
Amazing. So can you just tell us a little bit about who it was that you actually went to spend time with on the mountain?
Okay, so in the Sierra Nevada mountains in Colombia, there's four tribes on the mountain that pulled themselves back up into the mountains when the Spanish came through about 500 years ago so that they could retain their old ways. And their healing practices for themselves and for the planet as well. And the four tribes are the Wiwa, the Huancanamo, the Arhuaco, and the Kogi. So most people have heard of the Kogi. That's been documented fairly well. But we stayed with a family on the Arhuaco part of the mountain there. And in that tribal grouping, they live in little family, I guess we might call them compounds, but just areas on the mountain. Like it's amazing. You can just see these little houses, there'll be a few, traditional, beautiful houses and made of some made of the old mud brick and the thatching on the roof and some, there's usually a temple there as well, circular temples. And you just see as you're driving around, but they're walking or sometimes on motorbikes, but mostly on mules going around. And you just see, but anyways, we're driving around or walking around. You just see these little family compounds on the mountain. It's just beautiful. And that's how this particular tribal grouping live. They don't have like a village where everyone gathers. They do gather, of course, but they live in their own family areas with different generations in there. So, yeah.
Wow. So how did something like this come about? Because you can't just like book online to spend time in these places with
Yeah,
the
no,
indigenous.
no, you can't.
No. So how did it all
Um,
come about?
so these are sacred lands, and you can't just, turn up and there is like a road that goes in, and you stop. Well, they know who the locals are. Of course, the locals walk through because you see kids walking through all the time because they come down into the village to go to school, and they're in their traditional white clothes, and then they're walking back in to go home. Um, but they do have a school on the mountain too, which we went to, which was amazing. And I'll give you some pictures so you can splice it in later, Corinne. Um, so, so say if you were to turn up at that sort of the gates there, and where they come and check on who's coming in the cars, you can't just say, "Oh, I'm here to explore. I'm here to make friends." They're like, "No, you can't come in."
Yeah.
So we had to get special permission, and you're registered with the people there, so they check your passports as you're coming in. But you're also registered with the government in Colombia, in Bogota as well. So um, that you're there on Indigenous lands, and there are people there that are part of the community that are working with having an interface with the world. And so we happened to get in touch with them. It all started when I met one of my friends, Richard and Rosalie. They had reached out to another woman who was training with me, Katie, and said that they wanted to know about the Earth Akash, which was what I teach. So it's on the very first call when we were arranging, just talking about what their needs were and arranging for them to book a session and da da da. Richard had said, "Oh, I'm kind of busy. I'm organizing all this stuff with these tribes on the mountains in the Sierra Nevada, and the Mamos and the Zagas are going to be on a Zoom call. They're coming down the mountain. It's a really big deal." I'm like, forget the cats. I want to know about them.
Right.
So that's where it all started. So I was able to be on these calls, and there are various people that run these calls. It's not the only place. Um, and so got to be on these amazing series of calls that Richard and Rosalie ran, um, and then Richard takes people up regularly up to the mountain, or he was, and then that just kind of didn't work with my time frame of wherever I was traveling at any given time, or if I was in Australia because it's such a big trip. But then it turned out at the end of last year, I was asked to go and teach the Akash at a retreat in Costa Rica, and I was also certifying Katie to finish her teacher training. So I asked her as part of that to join me in Costa Rica, and then we ran groups together in Curacao. And then another friend who I'd put in touch with Richard, you know, it's like another circle in it. He'd been to the mountain with Richard, and they had asked him to. He'd bonded with them and kept in touch. He lives in Curacao. Khelof is his name, and that asked him to come back and to bring men back because they want men's divinity to start awakening more. But luckily for me, he didn't get enough men signing up, so he took some women as well. So that's how we got to go, and he was very gracious. And it worked for him too with his busy schedule of traveling and stuff. It just worked out really well that while I was in that part of the world where we were in Costa Rica, where we got to meet in person, and Curacao, and then Colombia's right there. So we went on that trip as well with Khelof, and his partner Justa. So that's how I got to be there. It's a kind of word of mouth thing, and being accepted and finding the right group that you're compatible with, finding someone who's willing to do the trip. It's a big deal to run something like that and hold that level of responsibility for that container. So that's how I got to go.
Yeah, so just like you say, it's like these, you've got to be invited, you've got to, it's not just something
Yeah,
rock up and be let in. So
yeah,
I love that
yeah.
you mentioned the mamas and zaggers. Do you want to just explain who the mamas and zaggers are? Because I
Oh,
think some
okay.
people
So
don't.
um, that's a common term among the four groupings, the
Okay.
four tribal groupings. So the Mamos are the male healers, and generally it means grandfather healer because some of them can be younger, but you spend your whole life training for it, and you're really becoming wise when you're getting older. But they're not all that old. And Zagas generally means grandmother healer. But once again, they start training quite young as young girls. And um, there was a couple of Zagas that we had there in the family we were staying with. I'm just looking for their names. So, so there's Ati Zaneka. So that's the woman about in her 40s. And then her mother is Zaga Zakaria. So she's definitely what you'd call a Zaga because she's older and wise.
Yeah.
But, Ati is a Zaga as well, but they just learn more and more as they get older and older. And they have a different training system from the Mamos. So the Mamos are the men and the Zagas are the women, and they're basically the traditional healers of the communities there. Um, and the Mamos, they wear white, both of them, and the Mamos have little white hats, and they'll have different shaped hats for the four different tribal groupings. And the hats represent like purity, like snow, like just pure, clear channel to source. So, yeah.
I love that. Thank you for explaining that because I think a lot of people wouldn't understand that. So do they start, so obviously they're the healers of the tribes, and is that something kind of like they're born to do? Is it like certain people?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
It pretty much does go in family lineages, but not necessarily. Like they will pick up in the community if there's someone that's born that is not in a Mamo family or a Zaga family. But usually a Mamo, a boy who's trained to be a Mamo when he's a young man, he will look for a woman to be his wife. That would be a good match for him on a spiritual level so that they can ask for a soul to come through to be a mamo. So he looks for someone compatible in that sense. So it's matchmaking on a whole different level, really.
Completely.
And then while they're pregnant, while she's pregnant, she eats special foods, and they have other mummos come and visit and do ceremony and blessings and things like that. And um, then they can also tell, they have specific things that they can tell when the baby's born if they're actually are meant to be a mummo. And the other mummos will come and visit and check on them when they're little, and they stay with the mother for, the first 3 years. But there's a lot of input from other wise mummos as well, checking on the child and advising the family about how to look after this particular child. Has different types of food, for example, and she eats different specific foods in her pregnancy to try and hold the womb space for a wise mummo to come through. Um, and then at about 3 to 5, they will they'll go to this like central temple area for training, and each of the tribal groups have different central temple areas. So they'll go there, and it's a big central temple, big round one. So they're kept in there, and this is the kind of the dark area because they do need to learn to see, with their third eye. But I've been in, of course, up there on the mountain in sacred temples, and there's fire in the center. It's dark, but it's not, it's okay. But they will do a lot of training with them at night because they do need to see with their third eye. They do need to see in the dark, so to speak. That's all part of their training. But they're very, very well looked after. They're fed very high energy foods. They have a different diet from the normal family, the kids at home.
Yeah.
But they didn't tell me exactly what the diet is. Um, and um, and also as far as being chosen, so it does kind of go in lineages, but there'll also be times where this is all from a wonderful conversation where I asked the Zaga that I mentioned before. Let me look for her name again. The grandmother, to sit down and chat to me because she had been a teacher there in the village. So I just knew she'd be a good communicator and pass on information. Anyway, that grandma, Zarneva, I think, Zaga Zarneva, um, she said that sometimes you won't think a child is a mummo, but then at about 5 years old, it becomes really apparent that they are. So some wise mummos would come and visit them, and then they would end up at the special training temples, but they start at 5 rather than 3. Um, and and while they're there, uh, it becomes apparent, over those next, however many years till roughly 9 years old, but it just depends, what their specialty is going to be. And then a mama who also specializes in that type of healing will become their mentor. So there's all sorts of things they learn while they're in the temples and going out at night. And then when they get to the age where it's decided, okay, you're ready to be with your mentor now, which might be like a relationship mamo or a ceremony mamo, or because they have relationship mamos that will go and stay with families to help heal and sort through issues and things like it's amazing. Or, a medicine mamo or whatever. There's lots of them. So you'll have your mentor, and then you kind of travel the mountain then with that mentor, and then they start teaching you about how to do different ceremonies that can be done outside, and the working with the cotton, which I won't go into right now, but and just different things that they can learn to do with the environment as part of their training. And reading energy is a big one. They just walk around with them saying, tell me what's going on here, and seeing how well they're reading the energy. And there's no specific graduation date. Like they're ready when they're ready, and then they're mamas, and they're in the community doing the work that they do, and gathering together where they gather together. And the women are different. Like when we were there on the mountain, there was a girl there who sometimes was wearing normal Western clothes and other times was wearing traditional clothes. And it was clear she was working with the two Zagas there, learning and doing things. And they said, yeah, it's different with the girls. They kind of shadow other older Zagas. It's not going to a temple and separated from the family, but they will shadow, the Zagas that they, can work with. Um, and also, they'll help the mummos, because there's certain ceremonies that the mummos need to do where they need a pure young girl to collect, say, certain leaves off a tree that then get dried in the temple, and then they chew them as part of their bringing through messages. I've got here somewhere the um, type of leaf that it is um, that they are chewing, but we'll find that later. I'll mention it later. And there's other things where the mummos, ceremonies where the mummos might say to the young girls in training, you can come and help me with this. And then the mummos are talking to them as well. So they're learning by being together and just talking, and the mummos will teach them things. And, they just pick up on what the children need to learn. And the Zagas will gather sometimes together as well to just all talk and communicate. So the girls will be there for that. And then it's just like a lifetime learning, basically. It's who you are. It's not like doing a university degree and you graduate. It's like a lifelong path of who you are. And I get the feeling, because she said the women gather and talk, that a lot of the teaching is about that. It's a different way of when you're learning to be a Zaga than when you're learning to be a Mamo. So, yeah, they're amazing. It's incredible being around them.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
was amazing. And we know that as souls, we're coming in with these blueprints, and we have these, we have our what we've come here to do. And it's like obviously what they're showing in these communities is they tapped into that, and they're nurturing that, and helping them
Yeah.
on the path that they've come here to be on. So I think it's really beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just like it's so important to them, because they're not only maintaining their culture and looking after their land spiritually, as well as, physically looking after the land. But they have a huge uh, responsibility for the the overall health and well-being and spiritual, ascension of Earth. They say that actual mountain there, I just have to find the notes on that. But that mountain is not just a mountain. The mountain is a pyramid. So it's above where you see the mountain, but it's also below. And what one of the when we were there, so Candy Maku, who was our person on the mountain that organized everything from the Arako tribe, is quite well known in Colombia. He's a musician as well. And he would hike around the mountain, and I had lots of help being a bit older, so it was wonderful. We'd all help each other in different ways with different things. And we'd hike around the mountain and just come to like a temple in the middle of nowhere. And then he would teach us something or talk about something. So one of the things that he would talk about is that the whole mountain is actually a pyramid, not just what you see, but what's below as well. And over millennia, it's moved all over Earth. And it holds the codes to reestablish humanity. So it wasn't always there. This is like a whole,
Wow.
the mountain is a consciousness itself. And I'll just say that again, like over millennia, it's moved all over Earth, but this is where it is now. And it's a conductor that radiates out all the correct creation codes to humanity, to the world. Um, and at one stage, that mountain was actually covered in water, and it will be covered in water again in the future. So this is just the point in the time space reality that we're at, and that they're completely aware of this huge responsibility to radiate out the original creation codes out to the world. So because as anyone who's watching this channel knows, we're on a like a quantum conscious like leap into a new earth field of energy. So or a new earth timeline or whatever people want to call it, the golden age of Lemuria.
Yeah.
We're here. It's happening.
Wow, Valentina, that is so fascinating, and that is such a huge responsibility, like you say. That how long do they know how long that consciousness is going to stay on those mountains, or is that just something that is not known right now?
The consciousness is the mountain. Like, when will it move again? Yeah,
Very,
I don't know.
yeah,
But it's slow. We're talking about millennia, so it's slow. Um, but we're just at a really important time of radical responsibility, um, you know, for how we conduct ourselves so that we can assist in this sort of resetting of consciousness to creation codes.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because we know there's been historically a scrambling of consciousness, um,
Yeah.
fusion code. So yeah, it's amazing. That's really fascinating. So how did it feel being on that mountain? Like you must have had a lot of journeys on that mountain. Do you want to tell us about some of
Yeah. Yeah. It's totally lush and incredible. It reminded me of some of the tropical forest in Australia. We have bush, which can be quite dry, and we also have like a subtropical and tropical areas as well. So it was like just being in an incredible, lush Australian bush slash tropical forest. And so that was really lovely and familiar for me. For some of the other European people, it was just like a paradise that they'd never seen before, never seen anything like that. And just this sense that people, like you'd see other people, Indigenous people walking around or, you know, on their mules or donkeys, sometimes horses, and sometimes motorbikes. Um, just this sense of like really being connected to the mountain. You'd see them and you'd feel it yourself. And uh, this living being in relationship with a living being that is the whole mountain was amazing. And the incredible joy of the people that were there, in the kitchen cooking for us, these lovely people. They were just so simple and joyful, and the food was all growing there, and it was just amazing. Um, but also on the other side of that simple joy, like they were used to Westerners or people not from the mountain. And there were also when we were driving around or walking around, like the children and the locals, they just look at you. They don't have this Western need to smile. They just look at you. it's so good. Like I loved it. And, you know, it's some of the people in our group were like, do they not want us here? Do they not like us? I'm like, I love that they didn't feel the need to do anything about us being there. They just looked at us. It was so good. I just stared. They just look. And I thought it was fantastic.
No filter, I love it. Yeah, just
Yeah. And
yeah,
also
here
it's
again,
like they can stay in
yeah,
their sovereignty. They don't have
right.
to be anything. They can stay in what they're feeling, which is like, what are you doing here? Yeah.
Right. It's like here, like in England, you'd be getting jabbed. Like, stop staring.
Yeah.
Don't make them feel uncomfortable. Um,
Yeah. I mean, some of them were playful, but yeah, a lot it was just like it was great. I loved it. I love that sense of personal staying in their zone, in their relationship with the mountain.
yeah.
Um, so, and it's very basic, very, very, very basic. Like it's a 2-hour drive to get in, and I've never been off-road before. This was like totally off-road, like
Oh,
uh, wasn't a
goodness.
Jeep, but something like that, whatever the four-wheel drive we were in. It was like, wheels spinning, something crunching under there.
Yeah.
And
You're like on the side, like,
yeah,
how the hell is
this
this
mud
person
road with these
driving?
huge divots and things. And I mean, it's great because it's another way that like you can't just drive in. It's a journey to get in there that you don't take lightly, and it's a big journey to get out again the same way. Um, uh, so that was a first big shock, and then you get there and they're just lovely and welcome you and find which sort of dwelling or shed you're going to sleep in and together with people. There's none of this, having your own room with an ensuite. There's two bathrooms on the property. They're both outdoors. The one near the shed that I was sleeping in with a couple of people, which was next to the kitchen and the dining room area, just very, very loosely described as a dining room, an outdoor area with a cover and a table and chairs. Like it was fantastic, but you just have to be prepared that it's not a resort. So our bathroom didn't have water on the floor, so that was good. We had the luxury bathroom, the luxury toilet. But you'd have to traipse out there in the middle of the night with a torch to go to the bathroom and things like that. So you
Yeah.
just get used to it, and it's so worth it because you feel amazing the whole time. Well, you go through stuff too. Like your issues are coming up and you're going through stuff. And I had a big release walking because all the walking was getting to me and my knees were sore and I was in pain. And luckily, I was with just such amazing people that were like, this is great. This is pushing something up for you, Valentina. We're here for you. So a group of them just walked slowly with me, and I would stop and scream, and that encouraged me to scream. Like I don't really have the scream, and then for a while, and then eventually I had the scream, and it all came out, and you know, we workshopped through what it was about, and it was just amazing. Like I just feel so happy even talking about it now, and we did lots of clearing with the we had one mummo working with us most of the time, and the Zagas were with us a lot too. So one of the things we did was we would walk down to this waterfall, and do they'd prepare us for a ceremony, and we'd go down one at a time, or some of the couples went together because you walk down there and then you take all your clothes off and you do this whole ceremony where you're letting go of everything under the waterfall, and then you come back, and as you're coming back, you get your clothes back on and scramble back up
Yeah.
these muddy steps and paths, and there's a beautiful tree you have to go through, and that was like you just learn things all the time. And then coming back up those stairs, Ati, one of the Zagas, was with me the whole time. She looked after me a lot with walking. Um, and but even little things like just hiking and walking around the mountains. Candy Maka would teach us things like when there's two rocks on the side of the road, on the side of the path, they're like gateways, they're like portals that you're walking through, or two particular types of trees. And he would point these out to us, like we're walking through a portal now. And they not only act of like energy clearing portals of energy, but for them, they're signs that show you you're on the path and show you the path because you could walk right down to the coast. We didn't, but you know that that's how you look for the correct path for these particular sacred rocks or sacred trees that were like gateways that you could walk through. So it was just like so interesting. And he pointed out, you know, the masculine trees. He took us to this incredible grandmother healing rock, this grandmother tree, like sacred places are so generous to share the information with us and to take us there and to allow us to connect. And you know, we're just such babies compared to them,
Yeah. Yeah. I
you
mean,
know, and to share all of that information with us while we were there so openly was like amazing. Yeah.
yeah. So
We
I'm
went to this on one of the walks he said this is a burial area. It wasn't where we were going, but we walked past it, and he said this is where some, you know, amazing mummos are buried, and he told us who they were. I can't remember offhand, but they're not buried close to each other, so it gives the earth a bit of space as well of, you know, decomposing the bodies, but also their souls need space to leave. So he was saying you never should plant bodies close to each other because it confuses the soul. Um, and that's he thinks cemeteries are a really bad idea the way that we do them. So,
That's so
yeah.
interesting. Just, just because, I mean, I have a cemetery close to me, and I am convinced there's some quite powerful energy lines there. I spend a lot of time in it because it's just really peaceful and I love it.
Oh,
I was thinking the other day, I was thinking, what is the sacred way of burying a body? What are those practices? So it's so interesting that you're talking about this because
yeah.
I feel like we've lost touch with that in our modern society, as we've lost touch with a lot of
Yeah. I've always thought I'd like to just be buried with a tree or have my ashes, you know, thrown off a cliff or something like that, just scattered
yeah,
over into the ocean off a cliff. Um, yeah, I guess they would say a sacred place in nature would probably be the best place to be buried. And they also have like an ancestral area that we went to, which is not necessarily a burial area, but it's a place where they go and they pray to their ancestors, what we would call prayer.
yeah,
And we went there and did ceremony as well. And you could feel this incredible field of energy. Like, you know, well, for me, when I first learned Reiki, I was just like you just do, you know, open a Reiki channel and then there's all this huge field of unconditional love because it already exists, because everyone's been doing it, or not, you know, people have been doing it for so long. It's like, oh my God. And the same with Ho'oponopono. You start doing Ho'oponopono and there's this huge field of peace appears. Just- And it was like that in the ancestral area. We started tuning in, and then Candy and Mamo Zaneva, the name I said before. Um, he, you know, they did. Oh, Mamo Zarawin, that was his name, the Mamo that was with us most of the time. Um, ha- anyway, they were doing ceremony, and they had given us ceremony to do as well, which I won't reveal just here. But we'd done our ceremony. They started running, you know, doing a ceremony for us, energy wise. And but yeah, it was like walking into one of those fields of energy. It's like, oh my God, this is incredible. So it makes me like the healing, the connection to my lineage, my family's here, my tribal, my soul family, my, my galactic family came through, was just like, I, wow, sometimes you just have to be at these places to get those kind of connections. They don't just, come naturally otherwise. Like, of course, we can look for them it was just different. Of course, I can have all those connections in the Akash, but this was different.
Yeah.
And this was on Earth. These are people. This is a living lineage of people
Yeah.
that still maintain all of this way of living and all of this multidimensional connection. They talk about how they spend a lot of time looking at the stars and the moon. Um, and they were saying to us, you should just look at the stars. Don't ask, where am I from? Or what is that star? They said, just gaze, just stargaze to connect to your star family. Just relax and stargaze. And your level of knowledge about yourself is what you will see. I mean, that's amazing because I've seen BBC documentaries where they can look at some map from some amazing telescope and say, that's blah de blah, that's where we came from. But to the naked eye, you can't actually see it. So their naked eye hasn't seen it, but they saw the map in London of this, the galaxy and said, pointed out all these stars and said, this is where we're from. That was the Kogis, by the way, but this uh I was on the Arawako part of the mountain, but they're all connected.
Yeah.
But that just brings home to me that concept that depending on your level of self-awareness, that's what you know is in the sky. So they could see things that you can't see with the naked eye because they have such a refined, advanced level of self-awareness
Yeah.
that they're able to actually see things that you can't see with the naked eye. And I just really loved that teaching that you just gaze and you just keep, clearing and advancing your own consciousness. And what you see is equal to how well you know yourself.
Wow.
Isn't
That's
that amazing? Yeah.
absolutely amazing. I love that. And anyone that's watching this video can start that simple practice to start
Yeah.
reawakening, like, because just sitting there gazing at the stars, start reawakening those memories and that knowledge.
Yeah. And just reawakening that relationship. They just gaze at the moon a lot, all phases of the moon.
Mm.
And they do this incredible sunrise kind of process or meditation, which I'd love to share about it too, if that's okay.
100%, please. Yep.
100%. Awesome. Let me find it in my notes. I mean, I know it. Talking about it now will inspire me to start doing it again here in Australia. I've stopped. It's funny how you come back from an amazing trip and everything's right there to start with, and then gradually those practices stop. So I'm so happy to be talking about them again.
Yeah,
So this is what we go on. Yeah.
so happy
Yeah.
sharing them with us. Like,
Thank you. And there's like so much more. This trip was like, I think 8 or 9 days. So there must be just like, yeah, this is the tip of the iceberg. I'm just like, I'm green, I'm someone who's been there once, very grateful to have been there. So um, this is what we did every morning. We would get up at sunrise and we'd walk up to this little area where the sacred temples are. So there's a group of sacred temples. Um, and we would face the sun. You just choose a spot wherever you wanted, and you rub your hands together. Um, and then uh, you you rub them together in front of your heart chakra, and then you bring them up to your third eye, and you just put a triangle and you hold your hands out to the sun, so you get the sun in the triangle. Um, and you're looking at it there, but it's kind of your hands are up out from your third eye, and the sun is right there in the middle. And then and you squint your eyes as well. After you've got the sun position there, you just squint your eyes.
oh,
And then after a while, you close your eyes, um, and you bring it back and you receive it into your eyes, into your third eye, and
Mhm.
your eyes are closed. And then you bring it wherever you want to bring it on your body. Um, and you can do it again, start here, bring it up to here, get the sun there, bring it, and then you earth the energy. You just bring it down and you touch the earth. You bring it right down to the earth with the palms of your hands. And then we would move to doing these uh like the infinity symbol, but would go from our heart out. There might be a mountain there, a tree there, and like this. So we'd do that for a while, and they just encourage us to get into our own rhythm. They showed us what to do, and then it'd be like up to us, or you go up to the sky, through your body, down to the earth, and then back up through your body, and all the time that kind of infinity, not a wave, the infinity symbol,
Yeah.
up, down to the earth, bring it through the heart chakra, back up to the sky. And yeah, it was just amazing, amazing. And then after that, um, or that, uh, like I tended to do heart, but they also said hips as the center of the infinity, like the center of your body, really, if you're doing it like that. Or you can start at your hips out to the world, there's the mountain and whatever's there and back. And so, and if you need to gather the energy, you just come back to your heart chakra and then, start again with those movements. And then you just connect to the mountains. So then, and often they'd put music on. They just love music. So they'd be playing music and encouraging us to dance as well. And then we would just face different parts of nature and just take it in. So they would generally get us to start looking at a mountain, a sacred mount, part of the mountains there, and then come around. Like we'd go around this way, I guess, anti-clockwise and all the way around. So you just stand and just have a relationship, just give and receive energy with that mountain, or here with the ocean, it would be out to the ocean. And you just walk around, like you do the whole circle all around you, connecting with all of the trees, the mountains. And there was, and then once they taught us that, the next few days, they just start teaching us about the mountains and about the sacred trees. Like this one is, this one is Father Mountain. This is where you receive your blessings as a child from Father Mountain and things like that. So, oh my God, it was just like incredible. And that's just to start every day. And then we'd go down and have breakfast, and they'd have all this amazing, food that these beautiful two chefs had cooked up for us, of natural, healthy food and coffee and cacao and from the mountain, all from the mountain. So yeah.
Sounds amazing. What a way to start your day every day.
Yeah,
Um,
it was just incredible, really so incredible. Um, and and they just talked to us about what we were going to do that day, what ceremonies they were going to do with us, where we were going to go on the mountain. And we were lucky enough to visit the school. They had, like I mentioned before, a lot of the kids go to school in the town, but they have a school on the mountain too,
yeah.
that teaches them traditional things as well as, um, uh, you know, ABC numbers, things like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and uh, they get funding from the government, but they for the school, but they have to build, what the government wants them to build, and it's like this awful concrete building that no one wants to be in. So that's there. They hardly ever go in that. But they've also built beautiful, like it's like a temple complex, these beautiful round dwelling shapes. I don't have to, yeah, they're like, they just look like temples because their temples are the same. They're round, mud brick, and the thatching on the roof. And they've built a cooking area it's oblong, not round, but it's the same. It's all really natural. And
Yeah.
they just prefer that. So they're still very poor because they do get money from the government, but they don't want to live their life like that in a concrete
Wow.
awful room and sit there and learn in a traditional Western way. So,
Not
yeah.
naturally. It's not natural the way we've learned. It's not
Yeah.
actually conducive to learning. Really, nature is your learning ground, as obviously is what they use nature as a lot of their learning ground. And obviously they understand the importance of sacred geometry and the shapes and how the energy flows.
Yeah. And just that connection, that right relationship with everything, you
Yeah,
know, because they don't have to go to school because they're, and a protected Indigenous community. So if they want to make it a connected, beautiful experience for the children as well, so that they come and they need them to be educated and they want them to then go on to high school because this is part of protecting their lands. A certain percentage of them need to become educated to know how to protect what they've got, to work, to interface with the world so that this precious ancient ways that they've managed to maintain and protect and have ownership over most of their land. Some of it has foreign ownership in there, but so that it's not ripped away from them by people that want to develop it for minerals or whatever they want from them. So, it's incredible they've managed to do that.
it is.
It really is. Yeah.
So we're going to leave it there for episode one, but episode two will be being released next week. So hopefully you enjoyed that as much as I enjoyed recording that video with Valentina. And please do look out for episode two coming out next week. Thank you.